Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So we're back with a Graves complete guide. Now obviously Graves isn't really someone you play in the ADC role. Graves is sort of a jungler slash sometimes can be played in the Baron lane. And he is really strong at the moment. So basically, now with the phase rush buff and the addition of sudden impact into the game, he now has a really good set of runes that he can take. And also in addition, we have the Navori. Although Navori did just get nerfed and did just increase cost by 200, it's not a big problem for Graves because Graves does get a lot of gold really quickly. So with that, you can basically dash pretty much unlimited. You are generally tanky-ish with Black Cleaver. We'll get into the build a little bit later on, but basically the main thing about Graves is if your team is winning and if you are a hit, you can basically farm up your whole jungler, farm up your whole jungle, farm kills, farm the enemy's jungle, and basically starve them of resources. If your team is behind, if all of your lanes are losing, you don't necessarily even have to actually gank at all. All you gotta do is full clear your jungle, take scuttle if possible, and if you see the enemy jungler ganking top, you go into his bot side jungle and just farm there. You get to 3 items, which is where is your first major power spike in the game, and you can sometimes solo 1v9 games. Like, it literally is possible. I've had a couple of games that did go like that, and basically that's why if I get auto-filled to jungle, which is what happened in this gameplay, you will see that later on, I pretty much always pick Graves. And just a kind of side note is that I am actually playing this gameplay was actually from patch 3.5, not patch 3.5a, but I am releasing it after patch 3.5a. So I'm really quickly just gonna go through what exactly are the changes that Graves got, and I'm gonna put up the visual right now. So as you guys can see, he got 3 changes to his Q. First up, the cooldown has increased at lower levels, but the cooldown actually decreased by 1 second at max rank. Considering you max this first, that is overall a buff to his damage to champions. The reason why they nerfed the cooldown by 2 seconds in the early game is they want his clear to be slower, because he is one of the fastest clearing junglers at the moment alongside other champions like Kayn and Shyvana at the moment. So they want to slow down his clear, which is also why the third change, as you guys can see, end of the line monster mod going from 120% to 90%, because he's clearing way too quickly. You guys will see in the gameplay later that I pretty much cleared the jungle so fast that I still have 10 seconds left before the skull spawns, and I have no idea what to do with myself because I didn't actually practice Graves clear in the new patch 3.5 jungle, so I don't actually know that he clears that fast. I knew he was fast, but not that fast, and I pretty much didn't know what to do, but we'll see what happens later on. And technically, he did get a huge buff, end of the line attack damage ratio going from 70 to 80%. So overall, the first and second change to end of the line basically makes it such that he has it up more often, and he also does more damage to champions, and of course technically monsters as well later on when he does in subsequent clears. So his ultimate collateral damage, hit damage, is going up by 25 at all ranks. So literally, Graves is already really good. In my opinion, he is S plus tier. Now I know I said in my tier list that I think he's S tier, but after playing him for a couple of games more, I actually think he is S plus tier. And in my patch 3.5a tier list, I'm definitely gonna move him up into the S plus tier, especially with these buffs. Undoubtedly, he is gonna be S plus tier. So anyways, with all that out of the way, first up, not first up, but I also have to mention that we did do a complete guide on Graves before. I'm not sure if you guys even remember, but you do want to refer to that for his skills and leveling order so as to not waste too much time on this. So we'll put that up in the cards above. So now that we've gotten all that out of the way, now we can actually move on to talking about his build. So this is the build that I personally go for. So first thing, I'm gonna start off by discussing his boot enchant. So basically on Graves, you always want to take defensive boots. So sometimes you want to take the plated steel caps, sometimes you want to take the merc threads. Now what you do want to note is that he does stack up a lot of armor off of his E anyway, his quick draw, so you don't always need plated steel caps, although the 15% damage mitigation does help a lot, which is why I still love going for the steel caps. But Merc Treads does give you that tenacity as well as the magic resist, which you can't get naturally from your kit. So I find that a lot of cases Merc Treads is going to be really useful. So the default option that is really useful is going to be Stasis, of course. Now I don't really think I need to explain why Stasis is really good, but some other options that are also really good is something like a Proto Belt. Now I personally don't think Proto Belt is necessary because with Navori your dash is going to be up pretty much all of the time. There's going to be only like a 2-second or so cooldown in between dashes because of just the natural cooldown, but it's going to be lowered all the way down to that because of building Navori. So I don't really think that is useful. Now Quicksilver I do think is actually really useful because in certain instances where there's a lot of CC, the Quicksilver can actually come in very handy to, you know, cleanse the CC away and, you know, get to work on, you know, just damaging enemies and chasing them down. So now another kind of option you have is the Stone Plate. Now the only reason why Stone Plate is a viable option is because Stone Plate is just a really strong enchant. As we all know, the Stone Plate does give you a huge shield, which does increase with more enemies around for like 4 seconds, and it does scale with your maximum health. So the thing about Graves is that he does go for Black Cleaver, which does give him 350 health, so it does actually synergize with the Stone Plate. So going for Stone Plate is really viable as well. But generally, if you ask me, I generally like to go for Stasis or Quicksilver. Of course, that could be sort of because I'm an ADC main, and that's sort of what I go for normally anyways. But if I were to go for something else, I would go for the Stone Plate over the Proto Belt because I do think that Proto Belt isn't really very necessary. So now we can talk about the actual core items of Graves. So the first 3 items you want to get is always going to be Black Cleaver, which gives you health, AD, and ability haste. And also, of course, it gives you that armor shred, which Graves tend to be in quite long drawn out fights. So getting armor shred on enemies is going to be really useful because when you blast them, you're going to do increasing amounts of damage because they're going to have less and less armor. And of course, the rage to give you that movement speed is going to be really useful. The whole idea with Graves is you want to be sticking on top of your enemies. So this rage is going to be helpful. Your quick draw is going to be helpful. Phase rush is going to be really helpful as well, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. So next up we have the Bloodthirster, which gives you AD, crit, and physical vamp. Now physical vamp is obviously the main thing we're going after here, which does of course help him to sustain in long drawn out fights and is really good in like 1v1s, 2v2s, 1v2s even. And yeah, so now next up we go for Navori. Now Navori gives you again more crit, ability haste, and AD. So we don't really build attack speed on Graves because Graves can't actually gain any attack speed much like Jin. It does increase his reload speed, but you know that's not really all that helpful in my opinion. And then of course you have crit attacks reduce your non-ultimate cooldowns by 20% of the remaining cooldown, which is basically where you can get the unlimited dashes from. So now, the thing that is really contentious is what order to build the items in. So now some people like to go for like Navori and then into the Bloodthirster and then into the Black Cleaver. Some people like to go like this way, then some people go something like this, some people even go something like this. You know, it's pretty much a personal preference, but I'm going to explain to you guys the logic of why I personally built in this order. So I personally like to take Black Cleaver first because it's just a very strong first item. It gives you the health for the survivability, whereas I feel if you go Bloodthirster, Navori, first 2 items, regardless of what order you have that in, I think that that's going to make you really squishy. So I do like having Black Cleaver first for like that starting tankiness with the max health. And then I like going for Bloodthirster first because I personally feel Navori shouldn't be a first crit item. It should be minimally second crit item, ideally a third crit item. So then I go for Bloodthirster to get some crit going as well as getting the sustain. So on 2 items, you are a very strong duelist already. If you find yourself in a 1v1 with a champion, most of the time you can I won't say win, but you can at least be competitive in that 1v1 with these 2 items. And then only on your 3rd item do you actually get the Navori Quick Blades. This, of course, now gives you the crit item already here. So now you get 50% crit and you can prompt Navori more often. Now for your final 2 items, the order can be interchanged. You do have Infinity Edge, of course, to boost your crit damage, give you more AD and crit. And you have the LDR to, of course, give you crit AD as well and armor penetration. So this does give you 100% crit as well. So in matches where you don't have a lot of armor on the enemy team, you can, of course, afford to go for the IE first. But majority of the time there is going to be a lot of armor, so you normally go for LDR as your second last item. So you do have a lot of item options. You do have something like GA to get if you really need that revive. You can technically go for Storm Razor as well, but I think that the other crit items are going to be way better on Graves. Something like Solari Charge Blade is also viable because of how much spells you spam, so you're going to actually get a lot of Solari Charge Blade procs. Now, Death's Dance is also a very, very viable option if you're into like a full AD team. Pretty much the only time I built Death's Dance is if I'm into like a full AD team, or like they have 4 AD champions and like 1 enchanter support, something like that. Then it becomes actually very valuable to go for the Death's Dance and go for a little bit more of a bruisery kind of Graves, like Black Cleaver into Death's Dance kind of build, because having crit is great and all, but having the Death's Dance to counter their whole team is even better. So another option you have is Maul Armour Mortis if you're into some very high AP teams. So now there is this sort of Graves build going on where you do build Youmuu's Ghostblade as a first item. Now personally, I don't quite like it, but I do understand why. Like, you get faster rotations with Youmuu's, and you also get that lethality, which is also going to be good as well, but I personally don't build that. And there even is a Hull Breaker build because Graves, of course, does... you can play Graves as a like split pusher, but ever since they range nerf on Hullbreaker, I don't really think it's a very good option anymore. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. Graves is relatively flexible when it comes to his build. So yeah, now we can discuss his runes and his spells. So first up for the runes. Now, I think Phase Rush is way too good on Graves to just not go for it. Now, of course, the other viable rune he has, or runes that he has, I guess you could technically go for a lot of runes on Graves, but I think that the most viable rune on Graves aside from Phase Rush is going to be Conqueror, because Conqueror, as I mentioned, you are in a fight for a long time, you stack up Conqueror, you get the Omnivamp, and you get the extra AD. Is always going to be helpful. But I think Phase Rush is just way better, because Phase Rush, what it does is, basically when you hit enemy champions 3 times, you can proc the Phase Rush. It grants you ability Haste, which of course lowers the cooldown of all of your abilities, and then gives you movement speed as well. So the Phase Rush duration lasts for 3 seconds, and it apparently has a cooldown of 12 seconds, but I'm not so sure about the cooldown of 12 seconds, because when I am playing in match, I think Phase Rush comes up really, really fast. I'm not sure how the cooldown is calculated, but I think that the cooldown is really, really fast. I don't think it's 12 seconds. But anyways, the main reason you take this is for the movement speed, to stick onto people. So you can proc it really easily, like you auto, quick draw, already procs it. If you like quick draw in, you auto Q, it also procs it. You can even use your smoke screen to proc it if you're really desperate to proc Phase Rush. But basically, Phase Rush is almost a guaranteed proc every single time. And this allows you to either, number 1, burst down an enemy and run away, or number 2, continue chasing down the enemy and sticking right onto them and they cannot escape. So, Domination Rune, Sudden Impact. Now this one is really, really obvious. You basically are dashing non-stop, especially after you get Navori for the cooldown reduction. Now with this, basically every time you use your quick draw, what you're going to do is you're going to get 10 armor and Magic Pen. Now Magic Pen obviously doesn't matter, but you're gonna get 10 armor. The cooldown is 4 seconds, and you basically have this up permanently when you're in a fight, because you're gonna be dashing non-stop, as I mentioned. Now I do love taking the new bone plating, especially because Graves is a jungler. He's not gonna be able, he's not gonna have a laner proc it against him randomly, so it basically only gets proc when you come in for ganks, which is when you're taking damage anyway. So I find that to be really, really useful. So I do love taking bone plating. Now, for the last one, I actually like taking Demolish for a couple of reasons. The first reason is if you get a successful gank off, you can get some plates with Demolish, but even if you don't manage to do that, because Graves can just spend the whole early game farming and not gank at all, even if you don't have that at all, you can still take down towers more quickly in the late game, like when you are pushing down like an inhibitor or something like that. So Demolish is always going to be helpful, and it does scale off the max health, which of course you do get extra health from the Black Cleaver. So I do find that really useful. However, there are a lot of options you can go for the Inspiration Rune. You can also go for something like Water Walking, what is it called? Pathfinder. You can also go for something like Pathfinder. You don't need Hunter Genius because you do have Navori, so do not go for that. You can also go for something like Nimbus Cloak, but I find that with the Chilling Smite, it is already going to be, you're already going to have enough movement speed. You don't need Nimbus Cloak. So for these spells, obviously it's Smite and Flash if you're playing Graves in the jungle. If you're playing Graves like in the top, it's like going to be not Exhaust, it's going to be like Ignite or Barrier depending on your preference. But with all that out of the way, let's move straight on to talking about the gameplay. Okay, so let's take a look at the gameplay now. As I mentioned briefly at the start of the video, I didn't actually practice Graves Clear, so you're gonna see that I'm gonna be waffling around a little bit, but let's just get right into it. So first up, what you want to do is you want to control ward your blue buff. Now, especially because I'm versus a Kayn, and Kayn is someone that I actually practice clearing on. I know that Kayn can actually do his full red side and then go to the enemy blue buff and farm enemy blue buff and then go to Skull Crab. So I know Kayn clears like at 105 or 110 like his own red side, so he can easily take enemy blue buff and then go into Skull. Anyways, here I actually make a major mistake, which is I leveled up my Q by accident, but actually Graves should be starting with E. Now, why do you want to start with E? Because when you're basically farming and dashing about, you're going to be stacking up your True Grit, which is the part of your E that gives you the bonus armor. And basically, as you're doing this, stacking up your armor, eventually you're going to get to the skull fight. And sometimes if you face the enemy jungler at the skull fight, that bonus armor is going to come in really handy. Even if you're against an AP champion, their basic attacks are still going to be doing AD. So it's basically always going to be useful. And this match I'm against a Kayn, so obviously that is going to be very helpful for me. There I accidentally autoed the Scry's Bloom. So here I'm like, oh no, it's only 1:15 and I still have 10 seconds left before Skull spawns. So here I spot Kayn going to my blue buff with the control ward, which is obviously why control ward is useful. So immediately I'm going for the trade. Of course, now I'm checking that no one has vision on me. I'm checking that he doesn't have a control ward himself. Now Gwen actually responds, but here I'm easily gonna smite and secure myself the blue buff. And here I actually can take this 1v1 against Gwen. I actually win this. Unfortunately, Alistar comes in off the rotation and I can no longer proceed because if not I'll die to Alistar. Now, good news is that Shen and Twisted Fate also rotated, so it is a relatively even fight if the fight continued. Bad news is now my smite is down because I just smited his blue buff. So I don't actually have smite for this skull for about another 10 plus seconds or so, which is why I'm not just straight up doing it even though Twisted Fate is right next to me. Of course I'm pinging this so that Twisted Fate knows I'm not just, dumb. So anyways, here my smite just comes up right here, and I smite it right before Kayn actually gets into smite range himself. So here is another fight is breaking out in the mid lane. I'm gonna quick draw back over the wall. Here Kayn comes into my jungle, procs electrocute, and here I'm just gonna blast him down. Again, I could have won this 1v1 and gotten a kill, but Gwen is coming, I know that, and I have to run. I get 3-man collapse and I thought that I was dead. I flash out toward the enemy team, and Shen actually outs me, which actually saves my life. So here I'm just gonna back off because obviously I'm 1 HP, pop the plant and get myself some health, and then I can rejoin the fight. Doesn't look like my team needs me though because they did get the kill on Gwen already and Alistar. Only Kayn is left. I barely miss out on actually interrupting his recall. I think if I did interrupt his recall, I would have gotten the Q auto R for the execute onto Kayn, so a little bit unlucky there. Also a little bit unlucky that I just randomly launched my Q into the wall like a complete noob. I do know that Graves Q can't go through walls, but for some reason while waiting for my E to come up, I decided why not I just Q toward the blue buff, and then I realized that, oh, there's a wall. Anyways, we're not going to talk about that, that's a little bit embarrassing, but here we're just going to move on, continue on power farming. So here, I did get myself to assist, no kills unfortunately. I'm gonna just continue farming the jungle. My whole red side is actually back up, but just because of how much shenanigans has been going on, like in the enemy blue side jungle, in the mid lane, etc. Of course, you are a power farming king, but if there are fights or there's places that you need to be to help your team, you still want to do that. You don't want to just farm mindlessly, and yeah, just not help anyone. So here, I'm pretty close to my Black Cleaver. I should be 1 or 2 camps away from Black Cleaver, so I'm gonna rotate over to the red side of the jungle, sequence down to red side, get Raptors, and then get red probably, and that should give me enough gold. Might even just finish up the Crux just to full clear my whole jungle. So here, of course, one thing you want to do with Graves is you always want to kite your camp toward your next camp, like that, so that you minimize the time you spend walking. Here, I'm just going to quickly clear out the Crux, since we already, it's the only camp that's really up and available. So here the Dragon and Herald are 20 seconds away from spawning, so this is a really good reset timer as well. This will allow me to get back on the map and pretty much decide which objective I want to go for. So here I get the Black Cleaver and Boots as well, because farming that extra camp of Crux did give me enough gold. Of course, with also a little bit of the red buff gold. So here, Kayn has heavy committed onto mid lane. So here I know I can help. I'm over here just waiting for Kayn to pop up, smite him so he cannot run away, and easy shot right into the face. So here I'm actually deciding to go for Herald instead of Dragon. Now why am I going for Herald instead of Dragon? Basically, I feel that if you're playing in solo queue, which is what I'm doing in this match, I'm not duo with anybody, I feel that majority of the time it's better to go for Herald and Dragon unless it's Mountain Dragon. Mountain Dragon is really strong, so you don't want to go for Herald instead of Mountain Dragon, but if it's Infernal or especially Ocean, Herald is way more important because what Herald will give you is you can use it to take down a tower, which gives you all of the plates, and also possibly get the first tower goal, which is a huge injection of gold for not only your team, but more in particular yourself. So here you guys can see, I'm putting down the Rift Herald. Here Gwen, I'm not too sure what she's doing, but she does manage to barely survive. Here with the help of the Rift Herald, as well as my Demolish, I'm going to easily get the first tower as well as all of the platings, and now I can actually rotate onto the Dragon and see if I can get that. Now the only minor issue I'm having here is the lack of mana. So here you can see I'm kind of running out of mana. I'm just trying to do the Dragon. Nice control ward by one of my teammates into the Dragon pit to disable the wards that they're just chucking into the pit non-stop. Shen comes in, so when I see Shen out, I'm walking towards the enemy team so that he's in range to taunt them like so. Xayah goes in with the ult, and I'm trying desperately to chase her down. Someone does hit the exhaust, slows her down, and then we are able to get the kill on Xayah. But more importantly, Kayn died as well. So now basically this should be a free Dragon as long as I don't horribly miss my smite, which I don't. So I am able to just pretty much get that Dragon, and both Herald and Dragon. So that went really well. Chain of events there, we got the Herald. We used Herald to take down mid lane tower, and then we transitioned over to the Dragon and got the Dragon as well. It was pretty, honestly, pretty beautiful sequence of events. It went really well. And now we are getting 2 components of our Bloodthirster. We're 2-0 and 3 now. So take note of our goal. Now throughout this match we want to take note of our goals, because with Graves you always should have very high farm. You should have like 1k gold per minute at the minimum when you're playing Graves. So here I'm already starting to power farm my way and get kills in the meantime as well. Here I spot a fight happening in the bot lane, so here I'm gonna flash in and Q against the wall so it comes back faster. Gives Shen the double kill. Now here I of course have Demolish, so I do want to help my team take down the tower. Minimally proc the Demolish before I just straight up run away. If not, what's the use of the Demolish? So here you guys can see I proc the Demolish. Shen has Demolish as well, so with double Demolish on the team you can take down a tower really quickly. Now Shen unfortunately doesn't actually proc his Demolish. So here I see Kayn and the rest of the gang, or rest of his team, 3 members up top. We just killed 1 person, so here only Gwen is really left to defend. So here we can get a little bit of tower damage, but we don't want to really mess with her under tower. So here I got the Grump already. Now I'm gonna actually go for the enemy blue buff as well, because obviously you farm very fast. You want to just deny any jungle that you can, and yeah, so here just clearing out the mid lane as well. Basically now, when there is no fight to be had and you have downtime, you basically want to just farm your jungle. Your jungle should be basically fully cleared majority of the time. Of course, if you're playing on the bot side, you don't want to necessarily rotate all the way to the top side just to clear your jungle, but majority of the time your jungle should be more or less fully cleared. So here I see an Alistar, but Alistar's not a really juicy target. I see Twisted Fate actually ping that he will come, and his ult actually reveals that the rest of the enemy team is top, whereas Kayn is mid. So Alistar is all by himself, so it won't, we won't kill Alistar really quickly, but we will be able to kill him eventually, and his team is not around to help. So this is basically a free kill. So here I'm just gonna ult to finish him off with the collateral damage. And in the meantime, the whole enemy team is collapsing on top actually. So here Tristana does go down, I believe. Yep, there goes Tristana, and a huge kind of fight breaks up in the top lane. Shen goes legendary and actually picks up another kill. Twisted Fate is rotating, but obviously he doesn't have ult anymore. I'm coming out of base and rotating. So here, now take a look at this. Boom. Just look at this damage onto the Xayah. We basically burst her down real quickly, and we're only at 2 items. It's only gonna get better from here. And now my blue side jungle is up. So obviously what I want to do now is to clear my blue side jungle. Now Herald is of course up, so we also do want to rotate to the Herald and get ourselves that Herald. But my team is not ready and not in position for that yet. So in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna farm up you know, the blue side jungle, as well as just taking the skull crab, because we don't want the enemy to have that. Here I spot Tristana trying to take red buff, although I already have red buff, but now we have the buff sharing, so I might as well just refresh my red buff. So I'm coming over, securing the red buff, and also this also allows Tristana to get a free red buff, also refreshing mine. So here, instead of going for Herald, I spot the enemy team a little bit overextended in the mid lane, and I try to capitalize on it. Shen goes in with the ultimate. Unfortunately, I get hit by the Aqua Prison from Nami, so I can't really chase people down too well here. Kind of a huge fight breaks out. Xayah gets caught out. Try to hit her with the collateral damage, but she dies a little bit too fast. So here I'm trying to go for Gwen. I smite her down to reduce her movement speed, and look at that damage from the Q. Here I'm dashing in to auto Q her for the kill, and pretty much at this point their enemy team is all under tower, and we can't really, you know, do anything to them very easily. Some random teammate pops the blast plan, sending me in the wrong direction, but you know, it's all right. Here. It's pretty much a free Herald here. My whole team is on Herald, and Tristana or whoever is actually getting a blue buff as well. Now I could, you know, just go for that blue buff to get the buff sharing as well, but you know, we don't really need to do that. This gives us our 3-item power spike with the Navori quick blades now, so we should be dashing, you know, non-stop now. And I also did get armor boots in this match because I find myself fighting a lot in this match. It's a really scrappy match, so having that 15% less damage taken, I think is going to be very, very helpful for me, which is exactly why I opted to go for plated steel caps in this particular match. Now, unfortunately, my whole team, not whole team, but my bot lane basically starts inting, and the rest of my team is getting chased down by the enemy team. Now, Dragon has just spawned like literally right now, and I can see the whole enemy team on the opposite side of the map. So I know that with my 3 items, I can't easily burst down the dragon solo. So I'm trying to do the dragon as quickly as I can. You can see the whole enemy team starting to rotate towards dragon. You can see the 3 of them are reaching mid lane now and rotating to dragon. So I'm quickly doing the dragon, smiting it to secure before they can even reach the topside river. And yeah, Graves does do the dragon really fast as well when you get like 3 items. So here, something that I didn't really point out just now, but because we saw this Kayn in the champion select, or not champion select, but like, you know, when you're loading into the game, you can see that he has electrocute. So the moment you see electrocute on Kayn, you know he's going for blue Kayn instead of red Kayn. Which actually is amazing, because we know that blue Kayn kind of sucks. Red Kayn is way better than blue Kayn, because blue Kayn can't actually one-shot anybody. So this basically is one of the ways you can tell. Like, normally if they go Conqueror, they're going for red Kayn. If they're going electrocute, they're going for blue Kayn, because it's all about the one-shot for blue Kayn, which he can't really do even with electrocute. So we do know that he was going for one shot, and you know, that's really just something you can play around if you do want to. So here Tristana lets me take the red buff. I give her the thumbs up because of that, and a fight starts breaking out in the river. Whole enemy team is basically going onto my team. Shen is really tanky because he is really fat. So here, basically it's a 5v4, I believe, because Karma is dead. So here I'm flashing forward. Xayah does hit the barrier, but I am able to eventually take her out. Now here, unfortunately, I don't quite have the movement speed to chase down Nami and Alistar, and with the tower still there, I can't really do very much to them. So here, with 3 people dead on the enemy team, it is basically a free Baron for us. And just for safe measure, I'm gonna just pop down that Rift Herald to allow it to distract the enemy team and also allow it to just charge into the mid lane tower, just to do a little bit of damage. And here, just gonna smite the Baron, and we can all just reset and pick ourselves up a couple of items. So here I'm getting Last Whisper and the glove. Of course, mainly the main person I'm trying to actually counter with this is the Alistar. Now, Alistar is actually building AP, if you guys notice. However, his ult makes him innately tanky. It just gives him natural damage reduction. So this is still gonna help against that. It's gonna help us take down the Alistar a little bit more easily. Although he's not really a very juicy target, but you know, just being able to burst him down, or not even burst him down, but being able to do significant damage to him is gonna be important. So here I was doing Skull halfway, and almost done actually, but I spot my team basically in a fight in the mid lane. Just look at how fast I instantly just burst the Xayah. I'm going for the Gwen here actually, but she kind of skips away, and I end up going for Nami instead. Here next, I'm going for Alistar. So here, Last Whisper does help out quite a bit. So we get ourselves the triple kill, Tristana picks up the double, and basically at this point, the game is won. Now, if you take a look at my goal here, I'm at 15k goal at the end of the match at 14 plus minutes, which is of course more than 1k goal per minute. And if you take a look at anybody else in the game, even the Shen and Tristana who's fed isn't really even very close. So, again, it shows how fast Graves can farm and how you should always have a high goal income with Graves, which is why you can even carry games that you're behind, because you do have the goal to get the items. So anyways, I'm going to be leaving you guys with the stats as usual. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and goodbye.